don't think he did.
Sent to us.
Recording in progress.
Here we go. Bob?
Yes, hi.
Here we go.
I'm here.
Thank
There
you.
I am.
Okay,
Nice to see you.
good to see you.
Unfortunately, I'm not there.
No, it appears you're not. All right.
But at least I missed all the rain and the wind.
Yes, all 7 inches of rain that we got, 6.5.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's awful.
Well, we needed it.
Yes, badly.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, open this meeting of the Wellfleet Planning Board, October 15th. Under open session, public comment. And since we have no public, any members have anything? Okay. Bylaw discussion. I'm going to initially turn this over to Beth, town planner, and get an overview and see what Beth is recommending to the planning board that we, and how we proceed. So Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, Jerry. So the overview is that the protected use accessory dwelling unit regulations are effective through the state. So they supersede our local zoning. So that is effective, but in terms of that, I recommend that we do amend our local bylaw to include some of the definitions, and some of the other articles that they include in the regulations, just so that if somebody does want to develop an ADU, which is closer? Yeah, okay. So if somebody does want to develop an ADU, it's a protected use ADU, it is within our zoning bylaw, so that there is no confusion, so that they are apprised of what the situation is. So if my recommendation is for the planning board to take a look at what is in your packet for the effective protected use ADU regulations within the state. If you have any comments, please review that. Also, the accessory dwelling unit local bylaw is in your packet as well. It's in your regs as well, in your bylaw book. So please look at that. So the other regulatory overview is in regards to seasonal communities. The Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities has just put out their draft regulations, which you have in your packet. So please review those comments. There was a hearing today just on initial comments, but if you can review that, and final comments are due by October 31st. So if you would like to meet with me individually or just email your comments to me, I can draft a letter of recommendation to the EOHLC with your approval and send it to them with comments. So please do review that. And again, like I said, if you do want to meet with me one-on-one, just let me know. So there's that. I'm kind of zipping through this. And then the other thing that the planning board has discussed, we've gone through the cluster residential development potential amendment. So you do have that in your packet. So please look at that. If we have further revisions on that, please do let me know. My recommendation would be, and I defer to the chair, my recommendation would be to look at this. If you have comments, recommendations, please let me know by the end of the month. And then based on your recommendations, I can draft amendments, and then we could potentially have a meeting, preferably for my benefit, it's in the middle of November, but we could do it also certainly at the beginning of November. So it would be either November 5th or November 19th. So whatever, I defer to the chair.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's basically also my town planner update.
Okay. See if I can ask a couple questions, and maybe I can, and then I'll open it up, planning board. 760 CMR, the Executive Office Housing and Livable Protected Use Accessory Dwelling Units. 760 CMR 71. I think it appears to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. That is what the state has passed as an ADU, correct?
Correct, and it
Okay.
is effective. It overrides our local bylaw.
Okay, there's a clarification on what I want to make sure I've got it straight. It is in effect, number one.
Yes,
Even though we haven't, the statement is, the way I understand it is, it's in effect, even though we have not accepted it or put it into our zoning, because it's a state regulation, it takes precedent, doesn't have to be voted at town meeting floor unless we make changes accordingly.
correct.
Okay.
Well,
Is it not, sorry to cut you off, is it not a standalone accessory dwelling unit zoning bylaw?
it is a protected use accessory dwelling unit bylaw.
Right, but that,
So there's a bit of a distinction.
okay, but where I'm going is, at the present time, Town of Wellfleet has a zoning bylaw for accessory dwelling units. This, to my knowledge, does not negate that. It runs either parallel to it, or we can replace it, delete it, ours, replace it with changes, or change the name of the one we have, make some changes, and have both as zoning bylaws.
My recommendation would be to supplement it, not negate, not replace, but I think we do need some specific definitions and new provisions within our local zoning bylaw that are consistent with the state regulations.
With the state regulation.
Correct, yes.
For example, definitions or something of that nature.
Yes.
Okay. So one of the questions, if new members, I'm getting caught up here because this is we've been working on this for a little while, but it's difficult to get your head around it. One of the questions I brought up months ago, this went into effect, was it February or March of this year, Beth?
It was the beginning of February,
I
yeah.
think it was somewhere around February 4th. This went on the books.
February 2nd, 2025, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So at the present time, we have two zoning bylaws on ADUs within the town of Wellfleet. Our difference is with Wellfleet zoning bylaws as it stands right now, is we allow up to 1,200 square feet as a maximum ADU. By choice, with no description of floor area in the main dwelling, which would restrict the square footage of 1,200 square feet and reduce it, unlike the state. The state says the maximum you can have is 900. But if you only have a 1,500 square foot principal residence, you only are allowed to have a maximum 750%, 750 square foot ADU on the property,
Under the protected use.
under the protected use.
According to the state or?
Yes, according to the state.
So the state regulation says the maximum you can have is 900. State follows through to say whichever is lesser of the two, either 900 or 50% of the floor area. So again, if you have 1,500 square feet, the maximum floor area for that ADU is 750 square feet.
It actually
If
does.
you have 3,000 square feet in your principal residence, you are restricted to 900 square feet. Whereas the town of Wellfleet's bylaw that we currently have, which is by right any number of ADUs on your property, is 1,200 square feet. So what I understand, and I will admit I haven't dived into Eastham, but I know other towns who had ADU bylaws on the books when this state ADU bylaw came out, have decided to simply change the name of their ADU to something similar in nature, but so there's no conflict between accessory dwelling unit state, accessory dwelling unit Wellfleet. It could be protected use accessory dwelling unit, it could be ADU, whatever. But the situation is, for the planning board, to Beth's point, we probably need, I should take the word probably out of there, we should look at definitions and update the definitions into our bylaw if we're going to keep it. And I think the question to the board before we had the two members, new members, was early on back in, I think it was probably March, April, May when I brought it up, and I'm getting a signal from Bonnie that I'm in the ballpark there. We decided probably to go down both roads, make some changes on our bylaw, but satisfy the state by putting that regulation in our zoning, but also because we're looking at, our bylaw says that they have to be year-round, we're looking for family kind of situations for ADUs. So 1,200 square feet, at least in my mind, and I think in some of the other members' minds, was that if you wanted to build something over the 900, or you had a smaller house that you couldn't get up to that 900, but you wanted to rent to families with children, that 1,200 square foot of living space was a better number to work with in Wellfleet. Now, if you've got a situation where someone wants to build a 900 and it's a one-bedroom, I think you probably can get two-bedroom in there comfortably, but nothing more than that, that's fine. But if they want an alternate and they want a larger unit, should we leave that 1,200 square foot zoning bylaw ADU in place with some changes? So I think that's bringing two of you up to speed. We've been talking about that. We kind of shelved it for a while because the Board of Selectmen really prefer to see zoning bylaws at the fall town meeting so they can get a quorum, unless it's kind of an emergency. So we kind of tabled it to see what the state was going to finally come out with and see if they were going to iron out any problems that Wellfleet had that were unique to Wellfleet, such as the National Seashore. Our zoning bylaw in ADU is in the National Seashore up to 1,200 square feet by special permit. Anywhere else in the town of Wellfleet, it's by right, as many as you can build. The state is saying that in their protected accessory dwelling unit, that any district, whether that district is titled residential, residential 2, does not matter, or whether it's commercial. If you allow single-family residential properties to be built in any one of your districts, their protective use accessory dwelling unit bylaw applies. Have I got that correct?
You do have that correct. So, and thank you. That was a wonderful tutorial. I greatly appreciate that. So, yes. So I think ultimately what I think we should do as the town is amend the bylaw to put in the certain definitions. For the protected use ADU, it is 900 square feet or less. So for example, if your dwelling unit is 1,500 square feet, you can only do 750 square feet. But if your dwelling unit is 1,800 square feet, then you can do up to 900 square feet for the ADU. So that's a protected use. And that's as of right, as long as it meets Board of Health regulations, it meets height, setbacks, all of the other reasonable regulations within the town. Otherwise, you could, an individual property owner could potentially do an ADU by special permit. So I think that's what we want to look at. So the first one would be the protected use. A second one would be, and it would be a special permit. So even in the seashore. So.
Well, okay, while we're discussing that point,
Yes, okay, I know where you're going.
and this is what we do, as, this is repetitive for Bob, but it's not repetitive for, it's repetitive for Bob, but it's probably new to Alex, is when we do zoning bylaws, we beat the hell out of them. We tear them apart. We're not bashing each other. We're saying to ourselves, if we can take it and tear it apart, rebuild it, when it gets to town meeting floor, we've probably figured out 99% of the problems that are going to be on town meeting floor, and we can answer the question, tell them why we did it, rather than say, oh, we never thought about it, that bylaw is going to go down. So even though we tear them apart, the members have to realize that that's a process that we need to go through. And for the few years I've been around, it has worked well. And everybody has realized that we can all have difference of opinions, but we're doing it for a reason. My point now is, couldn't we, and I'm not advocating this, but is one avenue because you brought it up, the protective accessory dwelling unit by the state, the first one is by right. Anything other than that is by special permit. Wellfleet's, as it stands now, is by right, except in the seashore by special permit, and any number of units. So if somebody had 3 acres, and they only had one 3-bedroom house on it, they could build by right, let's see, 4, 8, 12, 3. They could build, in essence, a cottage colony of 8 units, 1-bedroom units, or however they wanted to, without a special permit. And that's what the Board of Selectmen got through town meeting. We could leave that and say, okay, and the first unit, if you want to, under our zoning bylaw, it can be by right. And anything other than that, we could change the special permit. Or we could say, I think, and this is, I'm looking at Beth as well to see if I need to be corrected, is that's one way to do it. Or we could say, okay, state's covered the 900 square feet by right. Anything else is a special permit. We could change the present zoning bylaw that we have and say, all right, each unit is going to require a special permit since it's 1,200 square feet. So we have a number of different ways we can go about this. So when you're thinking about this for the next few meetings that we will end up talking about it, all of these points probably need to be looked at. The other question I'm looking at that I don't have the answer is this 5 pages, Beth, on the 760 CMFR on the protected use accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Is that including the seasonal?
No.
Okay, where is that?
So that is separate. So the 760 CMR 71 is the one that is effective. That's protected use accessory
Yes.
dwelling, yeah. So sorry if I misunderstood.
Nope.
But the 760 CMR 76 seasonal communities, that is the draft proposed regulations.
Okay, now I
So-
got it.
So
Okay.
they're two separate.
Yes.
And these are the ones, so, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the seasonal communities are the ones that they want us to comment on.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in that seasonal, to help not only myself, but maybe some of the other members, I'm sure that you've looked at that, Beth, and read it over. What, with that status that I think Wellfleet has, because we've accepted the seasonal, what's the difference? What does that add? What does that restrict us? And how it may restrict us from 760-71, the protected use accessory dwelling unit?
They are separate.
Okay, yep.
So the 760 CMR 71 is effective. 760 CMR 76 is a draft. So what I was requesting from the planning board members is if you can review the draft and give me any comments you have on this draft, or if you want to come in and speak with me. But that would be through the chair, not me. But then please do so. But once this is adopted, since to your question, your comment, Jerry, since Wellfleet has accepted that we are a seasonal community, Wellfleet is a seasonal community, then this would apply to Wellfleet.
Okay, that was one of the roads I was going down. So in other words, since we've already accepted at town meeting that Wellfleet is a seasonal community, like the protected use 760-71, which the state puts in as a zoning bylaw, mandatory. 760-76, when that goes into effect, becomes the same thing, a bylaw which we must accept.
That is correct.
So when the members of the planning board are looking through this, and I know this is probably a difficult answer, it may not be, but are there things in 760-76 that are sort of untouchable, or areas that you feel the board should really star and dive into and understand clearly?
I don't think anything that is new is touchable. Anything, for example, like the Internal Revenue Code is probably not touchable. But other things are. It references, for example, movable tiny house and what the definition is of that. That's defined in the Mass General laws. So if, in fact, we do want to define it in a different way, I think we could. But overall.
But you couldn't outlaw it, or could you?
We could be more restrictive, but not less. So,
Okay.
so,
Okay. Bonnie?
Yeah, I just want to kind of, my overview of this is that, am I?
Pull it a little closer. There you go.
Closer? My overview of this is that the
71 or 76?
the ADU, CMR 71,
Okay.
I mean, what it says very clearly that they don't, what is not allowed is for a municipality to be more restrictive than this government, than this bylaw. But then it says, nothing is intended to prevent a municipality from adopting more permissive zoning or general ordinance or bylaws or regulations that would be allowed. So in other words, the whole intent of the law is to do away with what they see as restrictions that are posing barriers to new housing. But they are happy, for instance, and I would actually, as a board member, espouse this, we could leave our 1,200 maximum We don't have to change it to the 900. I think, in the state bylaw, because it's more permissive.
We can't change it in the state bylaw. That's why if you want 1,200, you have got to have a separate bylaw. Because that's going the wrong direction.
Oh, adopting more permissive zoning. Nothing is, so we could adopt more permissive zoning for an accessory dwelling unit. But it won't change the text of this law, right?
Right.
Right.
So
You're right.
if we feel, if we feel that Wellfleet as a rural town with ADUs that we feel families need to grow up in, and they're willing to do it as a rental unit, that by special, if it's by special permit, because of septic and well, we still have a tremendous amount of handcuffs, but would be more beneficial to a family living in 1,200 square feet than 900 square
Yeah.
feet. On the other hand, if you've got single individuals or two with one just starting a family, the 900 works well. But if in fact that family grows, at least they could move up to the additional 1,200. That 1,200 is a third bedroom, for example. So I think it lends itself, in Wellfleet at least, to having an alternate ADU bylaw allowing that 1,200 square feet by special permit, as well as the 900. Because remember, these ADUs, unlike cottage colonies, to Bob's point, they're similar in nature. However, they are restricted to rental only. They cannot use these or sell these as condos. So it's different from a cottage colony. Cottage colony today, even though it's still on the books, you could build a cottage colony and turn around and sell each one of those units as an individual condo. You can't do that with the ADUs.
Right.
Through the chair?
Yes.
I've got a question. I'm not seeing anywhere in this state regulations, 760 CMR, Section 71, there doesn't seem to be any language particularly prohibiting ADUs for being used for short-term rentals. Am I missing something, or is there any such language anywhere in the Massachusetts State Code?
It's in there. I found it, and Alex, that was a good,
Oh, wait, actually it is.
now I gotta dig it out, but,
My concern being that there's also, section 71.03, item number 2, prohibited regulation, subsection A, or subitem A, owner occupancy requirements. The state is saying that the town cannot have an owner occupancy requirement either on the ADU or on the principal dwelling. And if there is no specific language prohibiting short-term rentals, and also the state has claimed, is saying that we can't have any sorts of bylaws that would discriminate against both the primary and the ADU being rentals, then effectively we are opening ourselves up to be bought out by investors that would, just effectively have 2 units to rent on one property instead of 1. And if it is the case that such language just specifically describing a prohibition on short-term rentals isn't available in the state code, so that is Section 71, and Section 76 is draft, and the state's currently looking for comment, then perhaps one of our comments should be a request for seasonal communities to not have to follow certain regulations in Section 71 so that we can protect ourselves from simply being bought up and with providing actually no housing for year-round people.
I read and I can't find it this minute. And
Right.
I thought I read, and I'll look to Beth, in 760-71, I thought I had seen that we had to look at that very closely because they were saying you could do short-term rentals.
There is,
But through the
Yes.
chair?
Don?
Oh, done, yeah.
get my paragraphs right here on the third page, or the last page of 71. First paragraph has an item C.
Yes.
For short-term rentals, municipalities may establish restrictions and prohibitions on the short-term rental or protected use ADUs. So I think that
Great. Which section?
it's
7103,
7103?
Yeah, it's the last page of our handout.
C.
Yeah.
So 7103, top of the page, you've had
Okay,
8,
short-term
9,
rentals, there we go.
and then C.
Excellent.
So my question to Beth is, in a lot of this language in the Massachusetts bylaw, they refer to municipality can make changes, but they can't, as you addressed. For example, we can't say, no, you can't put, even though, like commercial, we allow single-family houses in commercial. We couldn't say that you couldn't build a state-protected unit in the commercial district. Couldn't go there. So I think we can regulate a period of time under that C, short-term rentals, but I don't think we could say you couldn't do, for example, I think we could go to, you'd have to rent for at least 6 months or 9 months, but could we say you can't do, or a year? I'm not clear on that one at all. And that's one that concerns me, because if you leave short-term rentals in there, at least in my mind, you've defeated the purpose of ADUs for encouraging affordable or additional housing, and you're creating more Airbnbs and one-week rentals, which we really, at this point, don't need in Wellfleet.
Right.
So I think that's where you were going.
That was my concern. And, excuse me, sorry to interrupt.
Nope.
Don brings up referred me to the section where it, advises that the towns may make regulations prohibiting use of ADUs for short-term rentals. And then if you look at the short-term rental in the definition section of the sheet, so I was specifically looking for a time frame that short-term rental might be defined by the state, and it just refers us to Massachusetts General Law, Section 64G, or no, Section
Right, but
64G, Section 1. I don't have that in front of us, so I was looking it up on my phone as a...
But it does, now reading it over, I'm going to look to the town planner attorney. Municipalities may establish restrictions and prohibitions.
Yes.
Does that word prohibitions mean that you can say, we will not allow short-term rentals, they must be at least 1-year periods? Do you think that would be permissible under C?
I think, and I have to look into this further, but I believe it's 9 months. I believe it's 9 months or anywhere between 9 months and 12 months. So it can be less than a year, but not less than 9 months. But the primary residence does, even though it is, obviously owned, it does not need to be owner occupied. So based on.
Under 760.
Yes, 760.
Wellfleet says it has to
seven-
be owner occupied.
Yeah,
Yes, that's the difference.
so that is a difference.
So they could rent it as Airbnb, or they could rent it as,
Correct.
Oh,
as weekly rentals or monthly rentals.
Or you could rent the ADU year-round to a person and then rent the 4 or 5 bedroom house
Yes.
weekly
Yes,
in the summer and, easily pay for a mortgage.
yeah.
Yep.
So these are the in-depth things that we really, individual members, I think, need to really get into and get an understanding. And I think that sometimes having as many of us sitting at this table as we have right now might be a little bit difficult. And since Beth has volunteered to have you visit her in her office, I think one-on-one, if you've got the time, even though maybe it's only a half an hour or whatever, I think you should take advantage of that opportunity. I drop in there quite a bit, and we talk, and it's a lot easier to talk to and get an idea across one-on-one sometimes than it is with all of us sitting.
Well, and the other thing is we don't violate public meeting law. If it's-
That is correct, Alex.
So I've just looked up what the Massachusetts defines short-term dwelling or short-term rental as, and their period of time is only 31 consecutive calendar days. So we want to look at these state regulations. Unfortunately, obviously, we're pigeonholed into the state regulations. If this section 76 is draft, then maybe we should.
76 is a draft, yes.
Right, so then we should be pushing, and once again, they are seeking comment from the towns.
Correct.
We should be seeking for certain exemptions for that, to protect us from this exact situation. And I'm sure that we wouldn't be the only town in Massachusetts that would be considering seasonal community status who would also need similar protections.
Agreed, yeah. And my apologies, because I thought you were also looking at 76 CMR 71, not necessarily 76.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
looking at 71 as a 760 CMR, which is just, Massachusetts code, but
yeah,
the
right.
section 71 is law, is in
Yeah,
effect, and
correct.
76, section
But-
76 is the
Yeah,
draft
yeah.
law.
Okay,
And
yes.
so
And
I think that if there are discrepancies, or if there are sections of the general law, section 71, that may be disadvantageous to Wellfleet, then if we need to push back on them, if we need to get some sort of carve-out, then section 76 is an avenue that we could use to affect those changes.
Absolutely.
Requesting certain, I was reading in here, one of the first things is you can refute, you don't have to pay attention or adopt or certain sections of other law in here. So there's already these articles that can effectively nullify other sections of the law. So this could be a way that we could either clarify these definitive sections of the general law, or places that we can just seek exemptions.
And through the chair, I greatly appreciate that comment. And please, when you review this, do be cognizant of the verbs
Yeah, sorry.
shall and may.
Right.
So when they say shall, it's a directive. When it says may, obviously, it's, so please base your comments on that as well.
Yes. Through the
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
If and when the 76 seasonal communities is made law, adopted. Since Wellfleet has decided to be a seasonal community, all right, would this 76 regulation override 71 as relates to affordable dwellings?
No, sorry, through the
Okay,
chair.
Go ahead, you can answer it. Yeah, sure.
They're mutually exclusive, but they would both apply. 760 CMR 71 is adopted, but once 760 CMR 76 is adopted, then it would override any municipalities that is a seasonal community. Their zoning, but they are mutually exclusive, but work cohesively together.
So It's
If
sort
that
of,
makes sense.
if I look at it, and I remember now the 31 days, if I look at it, there are not, out of the 314 municipalities in the state of Massachusetts, I don't have the answer as to how many would even come close to qualifying for seasonal for 76. So this is 76, in my mind, is sort of like a overlay district in Wellfleet. It kind of overlays for special towns that have, like the Cape, a thrust of 3 months. For some towns, they may want something of this nature for 31 days for seasonal help, for example. More than one person, that kind of thing. So there is a reason and a need for it, because if you've got a town, well, even like Wellfleet, for example, and someone who wanted to build an ADU with 2 bedrooms, but they wanted to do it so they could get 4, 5, 6 people living in there, they could rent it to somebody for 31 days or 60 days or 90 days. So I think it's an overlay aspect of it. But it is something that you really have to try and get a good handle on. Because with all due respect, the town meeting floor, they look highly at our input on zoning bylaws, and most of them, if we think it's difficult to get this through our heads, can you imagine on town meeting floor in a matter of 5-minute discussion, a 3-minute discussion on something like 71 and 76 zoning bylaws? That's an awful lot for them to take in. And they can somebody can make a misstatement on a town meeting floor, and it doesn't get corrected, and it can change a vote completely.
Jerry,
Yeah.
Bob has his hand up.
Oh, thank you very much, because I missed that. Yes, Bob?
Okay, hi, thanks, Chair. I just want a clarification, and perhaps this is for Beth. So the 760 CMR 71, which is the protected accessory dwelling unit, and the 760 CMR 76 seasonal communities, these are both new documents which are proposed, correct?
That is not correct.
No, okay.
The 760 CMR 71 is effective, that is adopted and effective through the state. The proposed regulations are 760 CMR 76 seasonal communities.
Okay.
So that is the
Okay.
proposed. So that's the one we can comment on.
Okay, so in the 71, which is in force, in the definitions, they have accessory dwelling unit, ADU. But in the 76, the seasonal community, there is no ADU. There's only an affordable housing unit. Does this create a problem for us?
I don't believe it does. So the 760 CMR 71, it's a protected use ADU. So it really is in regard to a smaller unit that you could build on your property within, reasonable, if it complies with the reasonable regulations of a municipality. There, in terms of, affordability, there aren't really restrictions on that. Now, the seasonal communities is a little different than that. So, we are a seasonal community, the town has adopted that, but these definitions of affordable housing unit, and again, this is a draft, so if you do have comments on, like, for example, the affordable housing unit definition, please do let me know what your comments are, so we can submit those. Anything in this, it's a draft, so we can comment on it. The one thing, as I said, that I highlighted was, the zoning requirements, which is 76.04. So a seasonal community shall amend its zoning to allow the following. So that would be a requirement that would supersede the town's zoning. And we ultimately would amend the zoning to include this. So please look at that, keeping in mind all of that, if that makes sense. And Bob, feel free to give me a call. We can do a Zoom call. So happy to do that. But I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. And I have another, it's not a question, it's a comment. So Jerry had mentioned earlier about the size of the ADU under Wellfleet's current 100 square feet. And this came up last night in the Board of Health meeting where they were discussing the revisions to the sewer and septic planning for the targeted watershed management program. So it came up about ADUs and what would be allowed and not allowed. And I think one of the members of the Board of Health said you have to be careful because what it means adding an ADU under Title V, that if you have a 4-bedroom Title V and you have 4-bedroom dwelling on it and you add an ADU, you have to remove one of the bedrooms in your 4-bedroom home. And if you have a 3-bedroom home, Title V 3-bedroom, and you add a 1-bedroom ADU, you have to remove a bedroom from your dwelling in order not to go over the maximum bedrooms allowed. So even though, at 1,200 square feet or even 900 square feet, these are far and away bigger than what the state allows for a tiny home, which is a minimum of 400 square feet. So under Wellfleet's current regulation, theoretically, at 1,200 feet, you could add 3 tiny homes to your lot. Each one could be an ADU. However, they would be 3 bedrooms. And so what would happen to the dwelling unit that's already there? So I just wanted to point that out. So we're clear about adding ADUs is fine, but you cannot go over the maximum bedrooms you're allowed for the septic system that you have in place. Thank you. I think I got that right. Thank you.
You have it right.
Yes, that is correct. In terms, and I don't want to speak for the Board of Health, but my understanding is, so the number of bedrooms, you need the square footage on your lot for whether it's 3, 4, 2 bedrooms, you need that 10,000 square feet in order to have the appropriate septic system. So regardless of whether it's a tiny home, an ADU, you add an addition on your house to add another bedroom, you still need to comply with Title V and the Board of Health regs.
The only caveat there, Bob, you've got it right, because it's new construction, so that's what they're falling on. However, and I'm not up to date on the any late changes of the Board of Health. But if you're on town water, and we do have town water in certain places in Wellfleet, you throw that 10,000 square feet away. So as it is now, if you're on town water, you, which is a very little portion of Wellfleet, and unfortunately, that area is probably, those areas have intense housing, because that's why we ended up with town water in those areas. Downtown, Kendrick Avenue, that area. So you could, in fact, get a ADU if you had the square footage and you were on town water, you wouldn't have to go by that 10,000 square foot rule. I think that's one of the major, the easiest place to put an ADU in the town of Wellfleet, I'm not advocating anything here, is in the National Seashore. There's so much land around most of these small lots, you don't have well problems. A lot of the other houses are large, on 3 acres, 4 acres, 5 acres. They're the ones, quite frankly, that could afford to put up ADUs and not have bedroom problems. But when you get into Indian Neck, when you get into Old Wharf Road, Lieutenant's Island, downtown Chequesset Neck, that whole area, you get into where we have most of our 8, 9, 10, 12,000 square foot lots that are already over their 15% lot coverage. So we're relatively restricted substantially with the building of affordable houses in the town of Wellfleet, ADUs. However, that doesn't say we just don't do anything. We try and do it, but we are restrictive unless we go and bite the bullet like Eastham and go to town water. And that relieves that aspect and takes off the handcuffs where you can build more units. Eastham can build more ADUs in Eastham than Wellfleet can.
Okay, question?
Absolutely.
I don't understand why town water makes a difference if the limiting factor is the septic system.
Well, what happens with town water is that the septic system, you do the septic system, you still have to have 330 gallons per day for each bedroom. So you design the septic, but if everything around you is on town water, you don't have the setbacks from the septic systems, number one, and you don't have the 10,000 square foot rule, number two. So if you're on Indian Neck and you have a 5,000 square, this is a little exaggerated. If you're on Chequesset Neck and you've got a 15,000 square foot lot and you've got a 3-bedroom house on it, you're protected. They can't take the grandfathering away unless you do new construction. Now that trigger is what's causing some of the problems in Wellfleet to say, okay, if you do major construction, you have to upgrade that septic system to an AI system. But if you wanted to add another bedroom to an ADU, to Bob's point, you would have to take the bedroom, 1 bedroom out of the main house. If you were on town water, that is not the case. You would have to upgrade your septic system to a 4-bedroom,
Yes.
but you don't have to follow the 10,000 square feet. And so long as your 15% lot coverage was not triggered, you could build an ADU. So in some cases, if you're on town water, you can build an ADU on 15,000 square feet. whereas somebody else that's not on town water, 2 streets over, could not build that unit because they're not on town water. Whereas in Eastham, except for, I believe, most of the National Seashore in Eastham, they did not bring in town water to those areas because it just wasn't economically feasible. So most of the town around the dump and on the bay side all has town water. Therefore, they can put in as many bedrooms as they want. Now, their Board of Health may have, and I'm not building anymore, so I'm not looking at that aspect of it, but they may have passed something that restricts even that town water area to a set number of bedrooms. Wellfleet hasn't, to my knowledge, at least recently they haven't. So you've got situations where if you've got a 30,000 square foot lot that's on town water, you could build a 6-bedroom house. If your neighbor 5 doors over doesn't have town water because it went up the street and took a right-hand turn, you couldn't. You'd be restricted to 3 bedrooms. So those are some of the problems we're also facing. So now I've got a much better handle, but I did read something here that was interesting as Bob was talking. Even though we passed, and I'm not advocating this, planning board members, but I'm saying that when you're taking now a deep dive into 760-76, with what potential that can do to Wellfleet, there is something in there, if I'm reading it correctly, Beth, it gives the procedure for a town to accept a seasonal designation, but it also says that page 5, 76.03, municipal acceptance or denial of a seasonal community. 2, a municipality that has accepted a designation pursuant to 760-76 CMR may revoke their designation in the same manner as accepted, which means a town meeting vote. So if all of a sudden planning board members are reading this 76 version, this overlay as a seasonal, and you're saying, wait a minute, this has got too many loopholes, this has got too many problems. It sounded good when we passed it on town meeting floor, because this draft wasn't out. There was nothing in front of town meeting to let anybody know in voting a seasonal community that there were going to be zoning bylaws in effect that the state is going to pass, just like they did on the other. So it may be, and again, I'm not advocating this, but as planning board members, it's our job to look at this and say, well, wait a minute. This may not be as good as we initially thought in getting this accepted. Again, I can't underline it enough. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying, please keep in mind that when it was passed on town meeting floor, to the best of my knowledge, this kind of draft was not available for anybody to read. So are we opening a situation that we're going to regret by being a seasonal community? Beth, I can see this.
Yes, through the chair. So yes, the town did choose to adopt this, knowing that the draft regulations had not come out. But this is the town's opportunity to comment. And
As
so,
Alex was saying about the 31
Yes.
days and the whole 9
So
yards.
that, yes, thank you for that. So your comments are very important because the state will or will not listen to the comments that come from the various municipalities who are seasonal communities. And then there will be a hearing, they will adopt the regs, and, you know, Definitely, to your point, Jerry, the town could choose to say, we do not want to be a seasonal community ultimately, if the town does not like the regs that are ultimately adopted. But that's far down the road. I
Yes.
mean, we're doing baby steps, we're in the initial stages here, so I wouldn't even like go there yet, because it does offer certain advantages to the town. So please just take this seriously in looking at it, and with, and not that you wouldn't, but in giving your comments, so that we can send comments to the state.
So there's a good point. So we always weigh pros and cons on the planning, as planning board members. Are there outside advantages to a seasonal community that is not in this draft that we're missing or potentially could miss? I'm not saying restrictions, I'm saying, does the town of Wellfleet, by accepting a seasonal community designation, even though they have to follow and change some of this, is there outside benefits to that designation?
I'm not sure what you mean by outside benefits. But
Well,
I
for example,
do
if you're
believe-
a seasonal community, does the town give you, are you better in a position because you've accepted it to get funding or things of that nature?
I do believe it gives a seasonal community some benefit in terms of funding.
Okay.
But
Don,
I don't know exactly
You don't know what
that
it is, yes, right, okay.
Yes.
Don?
Does that relate to the two summaries of the bills?
Yeah,
Because those are specific,
yeah,
quite specific to funding ability
yeah.
for the town to raise funds for affordable housing or in the seasonal communities with increased real estate transfer fees, which I think those are new. So that, my feeling is you have to look at 76, 60, 76 in concert with the two summaries.
Yeah.
And say, you got to look at the whole thing, because there may be benefits or not.
I agree. I can't speak to this, really, because I don't know. I think, in communication with a lot of other town planners and municipalities, we don't really know exactly what the funding and benefits will be, but there is, there should be a benefit of funding to the municipalities who have accepted this.
They're at
I
least
don't
handing,
know-
they're
I
at
don't
least
know-
hanging a carrot out there.
I don't
to
know
see
if it's
it.
a first come, first serve.
Yeah.
We have not seen any kind of structure regarding that, but that would be a benefit, supposedly. Yeah.
Bonnie?
Yeah, and I mean, I did read this very quickly, and it seems to me that, the seasonal community regulation really makes it much easier to make year-round housing occupancy restrictions. And they define year-round housing as anywhere between 10 and 12 months. So that struck me. And I guess the other thing that when the 1A on page 6, where it says a seasonal community shall, so this is what's obligated, there's only two things, really, that it's tiny houses would be allowed, and residential uses on undersized lots are allowed if it's for an attainable housing unit and applicable, all laws governing wastewater and sewer et cetera. So, and it says, in no event shall a seasonal community allow the use of any residential housing on an undersized lot as a seasonal home or short-term rental for less than, so it's, the whole intent of the law is to reduce short-term rentals and increase more year-round occupancy, or at least that's what it looked like to me.
Through the chair?
Yes.
That's a great point. I'm glad you caught that. I'm thinking specifically of what are called ag lots, 3,000 square foot lots, 6,000 square foot lots. They don't qualify for a bedroom. They're sort of all over town. People have been buying them up, and I've seen the price on one specific example in my mind jump from, I believe the appraisal was $2,000 or something like that. It sold a number of times, I think most recently for $35,000. And I think the assumption there is that they can get away with some sort of tiny home or some sort of
Some sort of what?
tiny house or
Oh.
something on wheels, or there's some sort of loophole that you'll be able to use that as a place to live or camp. We might need to start addressing that.
But Alex, to that point, I could see if that was Eastham, town water. Wellfleet requires state mandate says 10,000 square feet for every bedroom. So if you don't have 10,000 square feet, you can't even put a single bedroom in there. Now, if they're buying these 6,000 or 2,000, 3,000 square foot lots to add on to their property to get to that next bedroom.
Right.
I can see why that would become more valuable. But if you don't have 10,000 square feet and you're not on town water, if you're on town water and somebody finds a 6,000 square foot lot, they might squeeze under one of these loopholes.
Well, and believe to Bonnie's point here, it says, and correct me if this isn't your point, but that specific item that she brought up, 76.04, zoning requirements, a seasonal community shall amend its zoning to allow the following uses as a right in single-family residential zoning districts according with the procedures for zoning adoption and amendment set forth, Massachusetts General Law 40A. Residential uses on undersized lots subject to the following limitations. The resident use shall be for an attainable housing unit. Undersized lot shall at the time of recording of endorsement be located in a single-family residential zoning district. Any single-family residential use on an undersized lot shall adhere to any applicable floor to area ratio requirements of the seasonal community and comply with all applicable, I guess that's not, it's the one before that, subsection I. No,
No?
one. Applicable requirements of the local building code, if any, the seasonal community may allow further to regulate, prohibit movable tiny houses. Once again, we need to go over this very carefully and make sure that there's no loopholes jumping out.
Well, on page 6,
Yes.
item 3, I think you started reading it.
Yep.
And again, sometimes when we lock ourselves in a room and just tear through it, any single-family residential use on an undersized lot shall adhere to any applicable floor to area ratio requirements of seasonal communities and comply with all applicable laws governing wastewater and sewage. So if you've got an undersized lot on Lieutenant's Island or Indian Neck or Old Wharf, and let's say it's 6,000 square feet, and it's got town water, that makes it buildable if you can get the septic on there. But if it's not town water, you don't have the 10,000, it's not buildable.
Well,
So they are giving us, they are going on to say undersized lots will become buildable on a seasonal.
Right, and another thing you need to consider is that composting toilets are a thing. And, a propane burning
Yes.
compostable toilet nullifies any wastewater requirements that we could use. And if there was town water, then you've sort of,
And even though I've got Jen sitting at the end here, who probably has an answer to a lot of the questions, I am not going to put her on the spot because that's not why she's here. So,
Al was right, he was at the meeting last night, and they did say that.
okay. Very good.
Sorry, through the chair.
Absolutely.
That is a very interesting point that I had not thought of. Attainable housing is defined, but I can't see in the draft 760 CMR 76, so it is defined. It is a defined term. So I guess I don't see why you would not be able to have a I don't know what the term is. Compostable toilet? Composting toilet.
I mean, provided you abided all the setback requirements for the lot and things like that, you could, or just park a trailer with a composting toilet.
Well, okay, I'm going to get, and you will learn these. If it's a 6,000 or 5,000 square foot lot, and it's been held in separate ownership, it's pre-existing non-conforming. They can build lot line to lot line. They don't have to go to your 25, 30-foot setbacks. I did a number of those.
That's pre-existing non-conforming existing buildings, not pre-existing non-conforming existing lots, or you do mean?
No, lots.
Just
So if you've
an
got
empty
a
lot.
pre-existing, if you've got right now, a 5,000 square foot lot's no longer buildable because, well, it is buildable if you can get the septic and well on there, but if you can't get the well on there, but you can do composting toilets, you can get a well on there or buy water from next door, you don't have to go by the building setbacks anymore if you held it in common ownership, in individual ownership. It's what the zoning was at the time that lot was created. Those lots were all created before Wellfleet zoning, so therefore you can build literally on the lot line.
Any lot line, not just the back, side, front.
Any lot line, front, rear, side, does not matter.
When were the Wellfleet zoning laws brought into effect?
To my knowledge, the first zoning bylaws that had any setbacks was somewhere in, and if somebody knows better, I think somewhere in the late 50s, mid-50s.
So if these lots were from the 40s or the 30s, then
Well, you take Indian Neck, you take Old Wharf Road, you take Lieutenant's Island, those were all subdivisions that were done on a piece of paper with no topography. That's why you have roads laid out that are on sheer cliffs, because they didn't have to do it. Most of those big subdivisions that we're dealing with in those areas were done back in the 40s. So they were all pre-existing. Indian Neck is a prime example in the water. All those lots were like 5,000 square foot. So long as they had 50 feet of frontage and 5,000 square feet, they were buildable, and that's why you see houses 1 foot off lot lines. But if nobody's built on it now, the minute you build that house, you now have to go by the current zoning setbacks. But if there was no house on it, no setback. Just a little. Anyway, anything else? Is everybody kind of all set on the 276 and 71? And most of, I think, what, I won't put words in Beth's mouth. Bob's got, okay, Bob, I won't close it, but most of what you're asking the planning board to do at this point in the next, today's the 15th.
2 weeks.
It closes 2 weeks. You don't want to see it 14 days from now. You want to see it in the next 7 to 8 days, right?
Get the calendar.
2 weeks from Friday, if I got it correctly.
Yeah, if you can give me your comments by the 24th of October,
There
that
you
would be
go.
great.
There's a date. Okay, that's where I was going to go in. So if you can get some information, whatever information
Or-
you want to sit down with Beth
Yeah.
prior to the 24th, that gives her enough time to get through it, logically put it together, and get it up to the state. We will not have, we're not going to have, unless you ask for it, another meeting in October. This is our second meeting. So anything you come up with is actually going to go directly to Beth to send up to the state individually. Bonnie.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a comment on providing the comments. Is there a way where the members of the planning board can see the documents in question and add comments either on or beside them that we can all see? So I know here on my building code committees, we use a platform called Teamwork. And we post documents on there and all members can then access it and see what the comments are. Just so a comment from one member may trigger something from another member if they would see it. And or we won't duplicate comments because we will see what everybody is saying at the same time. So I'm just wondering if is there a way that we could do that quickly? Thank you.
Well, there is a way. I can put the burden on Beth, if she'll take it, is as she talks to each one of you, or as you submit those questions, she can always put them out online and send them out to each one of you. Does that work, Beth?
Through the chair,
Yes.
Beth, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't know how much everybody's used Google Drive, but you can just, you can share a Word document on there, and each editor can have their own color of edits, and that is an easy way to distinguish between people, if that's something that we choose to go forward with.
And question, does that violate open meeting law?
I went through that training most recently, I assume, and I don't have that answer for you.
I hope not.
Go ahead, Beth. Just because one board in Wellfleet, please, and this is no disrespect, Bob, to the board you're on, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I try as hard as I can to watch that open meeting law stuff. And I think by sharing that information, and I'm going to give it over to Beth, but you're beginning to get on a slippery slope. Beth.
I would prefer to have, in order to make sure open meeting law is not violated, that you just give me your comments one-on-one. I will incorporate those comments and send them out to you, and then if you can individually respond to me, not collaborate, just just to me, you know, Al, you send a comment to me, Jerry, you know, and then I will incorporate them and send them to you, and then if you can just respond to me one-on-one.
I think that's the way to handle it. I think the other is really as close as I'd like to see to get to open meeting law violation.
I would love to do the Google Docs, because it would make it much easier.
Right, but it
But
seems like a
I
pretty
just-
direct violation
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking of it.
I think it is.
And it's like no group chats. You can't-
Yes, exactly.
And that's no offense to Bob, the board you're on or whatever, but it's just,
Unless.
we're scrutinized a little bit harder than most boards. Bonnie?
So it strikes me that it actually might be more efficient that once Beth has all the comments, to just make that document part of the packet for the next meeting. And, and we will all see if there's areas where we are disagreeing or, and to enable kind of a final version of the comments that is really the sense of the whole planning board.
You need to pull that closer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We heard you, though. Beth?
So my only comment response to that is that in order to give the comments to EOHLC, the state, I do need to submit those comments by the 31st of October. So,
However, Bonnie, I believe that what you're saying should happen anyway for us to have those comments for the next meeting in November when we discuss this. And so that, yes, we should follow through with that and make sure whatever Beth finally does send up from the individual input, that would be put together and put in the packets for either the meeting on the 4th or the next meeting in November. Okay? Yes?
So, and I have another question, which is going back to ADUs, because we do have some kind of decisions to make, right? That we haven't, Jerry, you brought them up, the outstanding questions. And then we have to decide whether to have some of the state language in our current law or have two separate bylaws. So I'm unclear about that procedure, but, do we want to leave the current Wellfleet bylaw so that you can have like 6 different ADUs on one property, all by right? Or do we want to follow the state of having it one be by right and then, have the others by special permit? So, I think there's some decisions that the planning board needs to make, which you pointed out, Jerry.
I think, Bonnie, and this is my own view on it from what I got months ago from the planning board members, and from you, because you were at the meetings. I think we're looking, at least at the point back then, and I think consistently now, it appears to me, I'm reading the board as saying, we really are looking at keeping 2 bylaws. What I think Beth is suggesting is that with our bylaw, if we've got a definition that is, let's just say, a little bit out of sorts with the new state ADU bylaw definition, we should probably take some of those definitions in clarity and put it into our bylaw. We have not, and remember that and I'm not throwing stones, the ADU bylaw was done by the Board of Selectmen. We did not recommend it, however, it passed on town meeting floor. Now that we probably, with the state stepping in with the new bylaw, I think we need to, if we're going to keep our bylaw, we need to update it. And I think one of the major decisions the planning board members will have in updating the present zoning bylaw that we have is, instead of by right, should we go to special permit for those ADUs?
The additional ones.
Yes, because we always said, planning board members, and I can remember the recommendations that came out of the board to the town meeting, is 1 by right was fine, but any additional units should at least go to the Board of Appeals as a special permit. Right. I think, Bonnie, at this time, those are some of the tweaks that, since we're doing this, that we should probably look at and kick around.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by, let's take the opportunity to tweak that bylaw a little bit.
Okay, so that'll be an agenda item.
That will be an agenda item, yes. Yes. I'm not sure, I have a suspicion, I have not talked to the TA about it. I believe the TA is probably going to go with the planning board and say, all right, 760, 71, and 760, 76 amendments probably will allow the planning board to get them on to the annual town meeting. I think the cluster bylaw and any other bylaws that we may be working on, I think he's going to want to hold off and have those in the fall meeting. I will certainly talk to him about the cluster because that's something that's fairly simple, and if we're going to have 2 articles on there, fine. But I know there's a number of other articles that we have to work at, but I am going to have to, either myself or Beth, are going to have to run that by the TA to see how he wants to handle
Yes.
it.
And through the chair, yes, that is, his call, the select board's call, how they want to handle that.
Right. I think it would seem to me that the 2 state bylaws are really something that we should get into the zoning bylaws as soon as possible, and I think that's something that needs to be done at the annual meeting since that's coming up first. So I think that's where I'm going to head unless we get bogged down in drawing up something, but I don't think we will. So long as we have that in by end of February, March, beginning of March, we're all set. The cluster, anything else? I'm looking up at Bob. No, okay. All right, that's taken care of. Again, what was in the packet was the cluster residential bylaw that we had started working on and kind of tabled to new members to bring you up to speed. The cluster bylaw that is on the books at the present time has been used once. And I have admitted at public meetings that I am the only one that has used it. It's primarily, the problem with it is that in order to qualify or even do a cluster development, you have to start with 15 acres. Virtually, Wellfleet has no more 15 acres. Maurice is one of the last ones we're going to see. So the planning board has been working, starting almost a year, because it was brought up by Oliver's when they wanted to develop 84,000 square feet on Route 6. They want to dismantle the tennis courts and do some projects. They came to the planning board, felt us out, and they had misread. I'm trying to think, was it Steve? It wasn't Steve Oliver. It might have been Ned. Can't think of which Oliver. Anyway, one of the Olivers came, very helpful, and said, the cluster isn't working. They thought the cluster was, he could come in with a number of different units, and he had proposed on 84,000 square feet, he wanted to do a couple one-bedroom, he could do 8 bedrooms. He wanted to do a couple one-bedrooms and 2 or 3 two-bedroom houses. Well, it was determined that that didn't meet, number one, he didn't meet the 15 acres, but the premise sounded pretty good to the planning board. So we had been working on the fact that a lot of our properties that are left are somewhere between, now we do have acres, an acre and a quarter, but we came up with 80,000 square feet as the minimum for a cluster development. And instead of making it something like a subdivision, we came up with the idea of a special permit by the planning board, not by the Board of Appeals, but by the planning board, where if somebody had 80,000 square feet or more, they could come into the planning board, use most of the present cluster development restrictions, setbacks, things of that nature, reduced roadsides, sizes and everything else. But they could come into the planning board and say, I can build on my 2+ acres, let's just say it's 80,000 square feet, I can build 8 bedrooms. I can subdivide this into 2 building lots and build 4 bedrooms each. That is consistent with the Wellfleet zoning that has been in effect with subdivision control laws for 40 years, except for the cluster, which was a little bit different. And when the Olivers came in and said, well, we want to kind of tailor this to home start, single individuals, small families. So we came up with this change in the cluster that is before you to look at, and we will put that on the agenda. But I wanted to at least bring up the reason for it. And what we've been kicking around is, if you've got now, for example, 80,000 square feet, instead of just building 2 4-bedroom houses,
For $1.5 million.
that you come in for a special permit, and if the planning board felt that it was with a special permit request, we could grant it, but have that development give up 30% of green space, which a subdivision doesn't have to do. So on that 80,000 square feet, you're losing 24,000 square feet already to open space. Now, that sounds restrictive initially, but what we said is, okay, now you can turn around and put up or use 8 bedrooms. So if you come in and you say, okay, I want a plan where I want to do 2 1-bedroom, 3 2-bedroom, or 3 1-bedroom and 2 2-bedrooms, whatever, or a 3-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and a 1-bedroom, as diversity in housing, the planning board could grant a special permit. And it's sort of like what the planning board initially is feeling is that it is a possible way of getting away from the grid subdivisions that we've done in the past, where we're creating 30,000 square foot lots with 3 bedrooms or 4-bedroom houses with a tremendous amount of land around it not being used. This way, the 30% of green space, could be some wetland, it could be whatever, it's protected, and you get a diversity in the housing and you're more likely on a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom to get people, because now you don't have to build the roads as much and everything else, maybe some better affordable housing. So that's what we're working on. So I wanted to let the 2 of you know that's where this idea came up, and it's my job, and I find it over the years I've been doing this, sometimes the planning board members, as I say, I've been on it for 35 years, we get kind of tunnel vision. So sometimes I found that new members are kind of quiet because they're kind of reserved. They don't know the zoning bylaws as well, and they're kind of listening. My job is to pull it out of you, because sometimes we've had new members on a board, and they'll be sitting there, and they won't say something, but I can tell their mind is turning, and all of a sudden I'll call on them, and I'll drag it out of them, and it's like the rest of us look at each other and say, how the hell did we miss that? So that's what I tend to do with new members is try, and of course, neither one of you guys are shy, so I know you will speak up, but you bring to the board new ideas that sometimes we haven't focused on, we haven't seen. But at least now you know with the reason why that cluster's in front of you, why the present cluster zoning has not worked, And over the years, Wellfleet has changed. We've used up all that subdivision land, and we really need to look at something as a better way to develop what's left. So, any new members got anything on that, or is that pretty much tell the story?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the story.
Yeah.
When do you leave?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Okay. Bob's already up and gone. So, next meeting will be, as it's scheduled now, the 5th.
I think so.
Just want to check.
The first Wednesday,
Is the 5th.
the first Wednesday is November 5th.
Okay. Let's see. You gave a town planner report. Next meeting is the 5th. I don't think there's any liaison reports, correspondence. Minutes of the 17th. Any motion, changes, deletions? And if none, anyone want to make a motion? Oh, wait a minute. Are the minutes?
And Mr. Chair, is Bob here? Oh. Oh, no, I can't. I'm sorry.
I don't have them. Were they in there?
There's the minutes, you're talking about minutes, right? 17th and the
Oh,
1st.
yeah, I got it.
We have,
I got it.
we have the minutes.
Thank you. Yes.
November 1st.
Any changes?
No.
If not, anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the planning board minutes from September 17th, 2025, and October 1st, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. Do I need, God, senior moment. Do I need a, can anyone vote on that, Beth? Or do they have to be at the meeting to vote?
To approve?
Yeah.
They should have been,
They should be at the meeting?
yes, correct.
September 7th.
I don't have a quorum.
Wait,
Do I need a quorum for those? All right. So I think I'm going to postpone it till the next meeting. All right.
oh, wait a
Postpone it.
minute.
Well,
Whoa.
the only people,
17th, we have Jerry, Don, me, Alexander, and Bob. That's a quorum for the 17th.
yes, we do. Okay.
Oh, so that's.
So those four can, yeah, I'm looking at Beth and Alex and Bob weren't there. So yeah, there's four.
Dawn.
So myself,
Oh,
Dawn, Alex, and Bonnie can vote, just those four. Any one of those four, out of those four vote. Bob? You in favor of the minutes?
Well, I'm in favor. Yes.
Okay. Dawn?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes,
And I am. Alex?
Yes.
All right.
okay. And four of us attended the October 1st meeting, who are here.
correct. Yeah, so there was a
There was
quorum,
five.
yeah.
'Cause-
So, yeah,
Wait.
Yeah, because Bob would be filling in because he's the alternate, because Bob Fitzgerald and Alfred weren't there. So, yeah.
you do
All right,
need a
we're all
quorum.
set.
So Alex, for October 1st, it would be Alex, Bonnie, Bob, and Don. Dupuy.
Right.
Robert Dupuy, to distinguish, and Don Tomas.
Do I need to make the motion again, or? I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for the October 1st meeting, 2025.
I'll second that.
I'll second it. It's Bob. Or Robert.
Alex, okay, wait a minute. Alex? You made the motion? How do you vote?
Oh, aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Bob? Dupree?
Aye. Yeah.
No,
Oh, okay.
But you weren't there.
Not-
He was
Oh, he
there.
was there?
He wasn't a voting member yet.
Oh, okay, so no, he can't vote then. All right. So you got your 4? Okay. Unanimous. You all set, Jim? Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair? it's
Oh, I'm
Bob
sorry,
here.
Bob, yes.
Can I, the cluster development document, are we doing anything with that tonight?
The what document?
On the
Cluster?
cluster development?
No, we put it on, I put it on there to do that report that I did. That will get on the agenda at the next meeting.
Okay.
But, yeah, since we've, did you have anything in addition?
No, I just had a grammatical correction, but I'll send it to Beth.
Send it to Beth.
So
Yeah.
I guess any of us could send a comment to Beth before the next meeting, right? If we have it.
On that?
Yeah.
you could send it through the chair. You could,
Oh,
I
through
would
the
request that you send it to both myself and Jen.
Yeah, okay.
Got
Remember, and new members, thank you, Beth. Again, because of open meeting, I am extremely cautious. Everything that you do should go through the planning board secretary. So if you've got something you want to get out to members, send it to, and right now, she's graciously filling in because of loss of Eden. Send it into the planning board secretary. She will then disperse. So that way, because sometimes somebody sends it to me, I forget, and there's a chain of command. So by going everything through the secretary, she stays in touch with me, he or she will always stays in touch with me. Then she will put that out and say, okay, I got this, disperse it to all members. So we now have a good chain, where it came from, how it got dispersed, and nothing got lost. I think that's what you were trying to state. Well, not trying, you did, but you reminded me.
So,
And
Mr.
again,
Chair,
Jen, I appreciate very much the help you're giving us. Yes, Bob?
Mr. Chair, it's Bob again. So the comments on the 2 documents that we have in front of us, the 760 CMR, those comments and the comments on the cluster, everything only goes to Jennifer now?
And
I think, how do you want to do it? You want to send it to Jen and have her give it to you, or do you want both, or do you want it to you?
I would say to both, Jen and I.
Oh.
I would say that I like that, because at least now you're
It-
getting
it's-
it, but
it's-
it's coming through her, she doesn't have to disperse.
But I see it, but Jen, what is your preference? Being a committee, the premier committee secretary, and board secretary.
In the words of Boromir, it matters not.
Okay.
To answer your question, Bob, I think for all, I think it is better
Well-
if you get it to the secretary. She's in the same building, it comes in and it goes right out. The efficiency is fantastic. So within a matter of minutes, Beth will have it once Jen gets it.
Okay.
If you
Okay,
want,
I didn't actually hear, I didn't hear Jen's answer because she didn't have a microphone. So, I'm sorry, so it does go to both, everything?
Sounds like he's got it.
you want it to both?
Just to Jen is fine.
Just to Jen.
Just to Jen. Okay, got it, thank you.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn? Did we have a motion?
Yes, please, adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Everyone in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All right, nice seeing
Thank
you
you,
all.
Bob.
Take care.